am pleased to welcome to the 2025 edition of Statehouse Conversations, Senator Greg Goode, a Republican from Terre Haute District 38.
Yes, sir.
For those with the scorecard at home.
That's right.
Thanks for taking time to chat about your hopes and aspirations for this session. Lots of bills out there. I know you got it, budget's a must, and then the other 1,000+ bills that have been introduced, I guess, are icing on the cake. What's a priority to you this session?
Well, I'm blessed and honored to represent Vigo, Clay, and a portion of Sullivan County. We are blessed to have a cluster of higher education institutions. That was where I spent much of my professional life as a university administrator. And for me, Indiana is so fortunate to have a very strong public and independent university system throughout our state. And for me, ultimately, it is how can we better the state of Indiana through sound, pragmatic, and I would hope bipartisan public policy with an eye to the future. So specifically, though, for the greater Terre Haute region, transportation and infrastructure is a real priority. For anyone who has driven on I-70 between Terre Haute and Indianapolis.
Is this where I raise my hand?
You
yes, to visit my brother in St. Louis?
Yeah,
sure,
absolutely.
Yes.
Well, then you know firsthand the really dramatic increase in semi-truck traffic on that road. That is a good thing in one sense, that the economy is humming and that there are goods being transported from one part of the country to another, going right through the crossroads of America. We've seen a lot of development in Hendricks County in the transportation and warehousing and logistics sectors, but what that has meant is an increase in semi-truck traffic. That also means an increase in congestion, possibilities of road accidents continue to increase. And so what we want to do, my colleague in the House of Representatives, Tanya Paff, and I want to do, is we want to really be able to make the case for increasing investment in transportation and infrastructure, and particularly taking a hard look at I-70 from Illinois to Ohio and all of the communities in between.
How tough of a sell will that be? Because we've seen some of the studies, you've seen them and poured over them, I'm sure, that show that the gap between what's available right now for road and bridge construction and maintenance, just to keep things where they are,
right.
Never mind add, it's going to be a tall order. Do you hold out hopes that this session there can be some a little bit of an allowance
some
for
movement.
Maybe something
I look at it as movement.
And certainly it is a long process. Look at I-69.
It is multi-years.
69 years, I think. I think it takes as many years as the
interstates. If that's the case,
no, I don't want to depress you.
We better get going right now. But no, you're absolutely right. And then plus we have a number of competing priorities in the state, and we are in our hearts. We want to fund all of them or as many of them as possible. But for me, it is always about, okay, what's going to help Indiana be competitive, 10 and 20, 30 years from now, and certainly we're going to need a transportation system that's going to be able to position Indiana to keep reaping the benefits of our strategic geographic location. And
that fits into the drumbeat of economic development, regional economic development, yes, which I associate with you. That's important.
Well,
and certainly infrastructure is part of it, but it goes beyond that in terms of shoring up our economic future. And I know those are some areas that you're looking at legislation and pursuit of an agenda there.
They sure are. I was one of the founding fathers and president of the Wabash River Regional Development Authority. It was the West Central RDA, and became a big believer in regional economic development, going all the way back to during the Pence administration and the Regional Cities program. That morphed into the Ready 1.0 and 2.0 programs. And tomorrow, as a matter of fact, I'll be testifying before the Senate Appropriations Committee, of which I am a member, to continue to help that program grow, regional economic development to grow, whether it is housed with the IEDC or whichever state agency. But it does a few things. It puts some guardrails in the process to make sure that there's increased transparency about these are the goals and the timelines by which we want our various regions to adhere to. It actually extends the operation of the Central Indiana Regional Development Authority. Right now, that entity is set to sunset on June 30th. And so my bill that is going to be heard tomorrow will remove that sunset. And I think most importantly, it better aligns regional economic development funding to the state's priorities, things like the life sciences, like microelectronics, like quantum, artificial intelligence, emerging biotechnology or ag technology, or defense development. If you take a look at any region around the state, those regions are somehow tied into one of those categories. Quantum corridor in Northwest Indiana, certainly the life science presence is huge in central Indiana, whether it's an Eli Lilly or a Corteva or a Elanco or a startup located in Fishers. Defense development is very prominent in Fort Wayne, as well as the Crane Naval Base in Purdue Westgate. When you look at AI, there's massive artificial intelligence investments being made in the data centers scattered throughout.
Changing the landscape of many of our areas.
They are indeed. And then there is an emerging biotechnology research that's occurring in our major research universities. And so what I want to be able to do is put some state dollars on the table that I believe will help attract federal dollars, things along the lines of the CHIPS and Sciences Act that is now well in implementation, but other future technology that will help make America strong and enhancing our economic and national security. And it can happen right here in Indiana because of our leadership in those sectors. And that's really what I'm going to be focused on this year and really moving forward during my tenure here at the State House.
And before I let you go, I want to be mindful of your time, but you mentioned the T word, not taxes, but transparency.
Transparency.
A moment ago. I know that's something that's important to you also for citizens of the state of Indiana for whom state government is a service provider. I mean,
that's right.
When you go to the state government and you want to be able to make sure people can find the information they need.
That's absolutely correct. And so another priority bill of mine would simply state that any state agency that has either a governing board or an advisory board, those boards meet regularly. They meet often in Indianapolis, but then sometimes around the state. I've done my own research and I've heard from constituents that sometimes it takes 4 or 5 clicks onto that agency website to even try to find when and where these commissions or councils will meet. And my bill will just make it it'd be pretty straightforward. It's going to be at the top of the main web page of a state agency, and I think whether it is our members of the press or the media, as well as the advocates or the average citizen, I think that we owe it to all of you and them to make it as easy as possible to see how government is functioning in the state of Indiana.
Hard to argue against transparency, right?
Yes, sir.
That's well, Senator Greg Goode, District 38, Terre Haute, I thank you for taking time out to talk about your vision for this session, and I commend your commitment to the state of Indiana and to public service. So,
well, thank you.
Best wishes for the remainder of the session.
Thank you. Appreciate it.